a brief introduction of yourself and who you are and how you got started at the Harriet Stowe House.
Okay. Hi. So my name is Christina Hartlieb, and I'm the executive director at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House located here in Walnut Hills. And how did I get started?
Yes, how did you get started?
So I would say when I was a child, I was a history nerd and loved everything history and going to historic sites and all that. And then I also spent 11 years as a high school social studies teacher.
Wow.
So when I was teaching, I taught American history. I also taught, I tried to teach women's history, but the school district didn't really go for that. But I did teach a class in African American history. Okay. So I was, did a lot of different things. And then when I was ready to start a new challenge, I started looking around, and this job opportunity came open. I wanted to work in a museum, so here I ended up at the Harriet Beecher Stowe House.
Oh, wow. That's so important, right? And it kind of speaks to like your passion and your purpose. It was kind of like, I don't know if God intervened on that, like to set you up to where now you're here. And so that's very good. So can you tell us the story of the Harriet Beecher Stowe House?
Okay, so it is an important historic site for multiple reasons, actually. In the 1830s and 40s, this was the home of Lyman Beecher, Harriet Beecher Stowe's dad, and his family. Harriet lived here off and on for a little while, and then after she got married, she lived right down the street, so she was still in and out of the family home very frequently. But we really use the opportunity for the house to show the abolitionist history of Cincinnati. Harriet was a white lady that grew up in Connecticut.
Wow. Okay.
So if she had never lived in Cincinnati, she would not have been able to write the most important anti-slavery book, Uncle Tom's Cabin. So living here in this border city and interacting with the people here is what enabled her to do the research and make the connections and make be able to put these ideas together. So part of the house is restored to 1840. We're actually sitting in part of that 1840 restoration right now. But it has another history as well, because this house is 190 some years old. Houses do not stay the same for that long. So in the 1930s and 40s, this same house was called the Edgemont Inn. And it was an African American boarding house and tavern, and it was listed in the Green Motorist book. The guidebook for African Americans during segregation days.
I've seen it.
So we tie these, and part of the house looks like 1940. So we've got part in 1840 and part in 1940. And we tie these two big ideas together by saying this house bears witness to generations using their voices for truth in our nation's struggle toward freedom and humanity for all.
Oh, that is amazing. So basically what you're saying is Cincinnati is the reason?
Yes, Cincinnati has a lot more history. And a lot more, has been a focal point of American history and really a microcosm of understanding American history than most people realize.
Wow, that's great. And that leads me to my next point. So your mission being in action. So how do you connect the mission of the house to present day issues in your day-to-day work?
I would say that there's several different ways that we do that. So this house has always been a place for civic dialogue. People speaking to each other in a civic manner and really kind of talking about their hopes and dreams for the United States, their hopes and dreams for their families, their hopes and dreams for how to get along with each other in society. So we've always been that place for civic dialogue. And then in the 1940s, when it was an African American boarding house, there was a group of citizens led by an African American lawyer named George B. Conrad. And he and this civic group that was multiracial and multi-religious came together and basically raised money to buy the house and turn it into a historic site.
Wow.
So their motto or their idea was that this should be a lighthouse symbolizing goodwill and better understanding. So from the days of Harriet's family through the 1940s and then continuing that civic dialogue today, we really facilitate historical exploration with a lot of research and showing visitors the history of the house. We inspire positive change, and we support dialogue about social issues related to that heritage.
Wow.
So that's how we really connect all of those pieces in our mission.
Yeah, and I can tell from just walking in, you can feel the presence of the historical moments. And I love that you all still have like the wallpaper, some of the carpet. Right.
So that was really done, it was a long process from about 2017 was the start through 2024, and that was our big restoration project.
I see. Got it. So come out and visit. All right. So you served as executive director since 2017. What are some of the most meaningful changes or accomplishments during that time?
So most meaningful, I would say, is really growing our membership base and really connecting with a lot of people throughout the city, throughout the region, Ohio, and even, nationally in some cases, but really growing that membership base and having people, understand our mission and want to support our mission. I've also increased our staff to be able to serve our visitors and program participants better. When I started, it was just me.
Wow.
And in that time, so 9 years now, I've increased the staff. We now have 5 part-time people working with me as well. Amazing. And each one of them does like a different function. So kind of really specializing in communications and development and volunteer engagement, community engagement, and now social media. So we have these different pieces that all come together. And then, also fostering partnerships throughout the city. And then the big thing, which I alluded to earlier, was our restoration project. So really taking the house, which initially, when I came in, it didn't resemble what the Beecher family home looked like because it had had so many changes over time. But now we've got part that looks like 1840 and part that looks like 1940, and things like the reproduction carpet and the reproduction wallpaper and drapery really brings you into that time period, and you can feel the presence of the people who were in this room. And then likewise in the 1940 section, it has the hardwood floor that was a later addition to the house. And that is the original flooring from 1908 when that part of the house was built on. 1908. So it really brings it to life, being able to see and feel the way that it looked.
Yes,
in those 2 time periods.
Yeah, I could feel it when you come in, or even just seeing it. I mean, it's the most amazing thing. So, and I know you spoke on, like, you were the only one here, and I know a lot of nonprofits, we do have some struggles with finding good people to do the work. And so how have, like, you being the executive director and being the only one here, like, is there anything that you would tell, like, another nonprofit leader, like, hey, these are some steps, or these are some things that you can do to kind of help grow the nonprofit from that standpoint?
Well, I mean, it all initially comes down to funding. You have to make sure that you have the funding for that, whether it be through getting grants for specific things or, just growing your regular financial basis. Like I said, we do memberships and then also earned income through tours and programs. So funding is the, kind of the first step. And then the next step that I took was I looked at all of the different things I was doing, and I'm like, what would be something that I could delegate to someone else and say, okay, I'm going to take this part and delegate this to a new staff member. And then the next time I was ready, I was like, okay, what else am I going to delegate? So it was kind of a piecemeal delegation of these different tasks.
Wow. I'm glad you spoke to that, because there's a lot of nonprofit leaders that it's so hard for them to trust and delegate. And so is there...
I've been guilty of that sometimes too.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. And it seems like you're in a place to where you feel comfortable actually doing that. Like, I can hear it and I can feel it. Like, was there something that got you to a place to where you're like, you know what? Hey,
just too much stress.
I
was working too many hours.
Too many hours.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And that brings me to my other point. So your current work and excitement. So what programs or partnerships, and I think you spoke on partnerships a little bit, are there any initiatives that you're like most excited about, like at the current moment right now?
Initiatives that I'm most excited about.
Or even partnerships.
So we really, I would say our biggest thing right now is the garden project that we are doing with the University of Cincinnati and Cincy Parks. So, it was a history professor, Kate Sorrells, who came to me and said, hey, we'd like to help restore the historic gardens here. And what can we do to work through that and create almost like an outdoor living classroom for UC students in various departments. And so, because part of the land is owned by Cincy Parks and part of the land is owned by the Ohio History Connection, so it's really a partnership between these four entities that has gotten the garden project working. And you have to kind of take things slowly and piecemeal sometimes. So we have created the Pocket Prairie, which is out by the entrance to the parking lot, and that is to demonstrate kind of the native wildflower area that would have been here when the Beechers arrived. And then we have another section of garden that we worked on last year to create, and then this year this week we're going to plant it up with some daisies. And the reason we selected daisies is because the first curator here at the museum was an African-American woman named Malvina Smith. Wow. And she lived here with her family basically in the 1950s and 60s. And she planted daisies on the grounds. Wow. So we're going to pay homage to her in terms of showing a daisy garden. And then a future phase, which we don't have a time frame for yet because there's some other hurdles to deal with, but a future phase will go back and look at the Beecher sisters, Harriet and Harriet's sister Catherine, particularly. Catherine was also a writer, and she was the kind of the founder of the idea of home economics, raising, housekeeping to a science. And she had a book that she wrote while living here called A Treatise on Domestic Economy, and she has a medicinal herb garden picture plot in that book. And really the Beecher sisters took the idea of using your herb garden as the family medicine chest. Wow. So a future phase will hopefully be able to recreate that Catherine Beecher garden as well.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And you said, so you partner with UC, and they're going to come in and help.
Well, they have been doing all of this work has been in collaboration with UC. Okay. And they've also brought in different classes to do different projects. Wow. So being able to use the grounds as a basis for a horticulture class, for an art class, for it was ecology and history class. So we've had some art installations on the ground based on with those student projects.
Wow, that sounds great. So as you guys hear, partnerships are important, and so is collaboration. So I would encourage everyone to always reach out, even though it may not seem, like you may not know what to say. Right, but it's still good. It's still good to make the ask, right? Because we're a nonprofit.
Oh yeah. So basically, just talk about what you're doing. They can talk about what they're doing, and see if there's a meeting point somewhere, or just a spark of something that that would be kind of cool, or that would be an interesting way to collaborate, or that would be an interesting, whether it's a one-time event or something that's more long-term.
Yeah, I agree. So what was, and I know you talked about the preservation and kind of like your own personal impact. So what has the restoration and stewardship of the historic home meant to you personally?
So I often talk about the idea of historical literacy. You have to be able to read the past to understand why things are the way they are today. And I think using this, this setting and the preservation of the house and its restoration to the different time periods really helps people see and helps people understand, well, what was going on back then, what was going on at this time, and how that still plays out today. Mm-hmm. And we see the echoes of things from the 1800s, and we see the echoes of the things from the 1900s. And have we completely done that? Or completely, the idea goes back to, the house bearing witness, generations using their voice, and still struggling towards freedom and humanity for all.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, and I believe we have to continue to use our voice, and I also believe that it's imperative that we know how to, right? Because I believe, because I've been in spaces, and I'm sure other nonprofit leaders can account for that, like not knowing what to say, how to say, or just, what comes to mind, like what are the type of words that I use, because I do believe there is a certain language when you're in the nonprofit space that you have to use in order to get like grants, get volunteers and donations and different things like that. So that's very important when you're talking about using your voice. And with that, so how do you ensure that diverse voices and perspectives are included in telling this history?
Making sure that diverse voices are included in this history, the different perspectives. I would say, one of the great additions that we were able to make when we, were adding more staff members is that we do have a community engagement coordinator. And so Zinnia really does, be the liaison between the community. And we also have a project that we have broadly called Centering African American Voices, or Centering African American Stories, and that has enabled us to get some grant funding for this. And one of the parts of that is a Women of Beecher Place oral history project. So people who have had some connection to the house over the last 80 years and getting interviews and talking with them. We have also done some research on the 20th century residents of the house, and then some of the other things on that Centering African American Stories, which is more broad because it goes back to the idea of using your voice, is that we have a monthly open mic night that Zinnia puts on.
I've seen that.
So there's a lot of, and we're going to have a poetry slam coming up in June. Nice. So, we've got a lot of different pieces of that, but they're all go back to the idea that we want everybody to be able to share their story.
Their story and their voice. Yes, yes. I believe we're on the same page with that. All right, so what ways have community shares been helpful to your organization?
I would say community shares has been helpful in a lot of networking connections. Okay. So I've gone to several of the meetings and networking events and so forth, and being able to talk with people and come up with these ideas for partnerships. And then also just resources to help increase our effectiveness.
That's great. And it's always good to have a member organization that you can be a part of. I'd see it when I'm talking to members. It's almost like a family-oriented thing when I'm talking to them, and we collaborate. Like, we share ideas, and I try to get as many members involved as I can. It's kind of hard to reach everyone, but
we're all busy people.
Yeah, all busy. Yeah, and when you guys are not busy, it's amazing because the ideas start to come in and different things like that. So that leads me to my next question. So how does the museum, and I know we're in Walnut Hills, how do you connect with the neighborhood?
Well, so this particular neighborhood has a ton of nonprofits.
Wow.
And a ton of cultural organizations. It stretches from here. I like to think of, we're the cultural anchor of the north part of Walnut Hills, and it goes all the way down Gilbert Avenue to the Art Museum and the Ballet.
Wow.
And in between that is a number of different arts and culture organizations. So really, having that cultural stance, having that relationships and partnerships. I am a part of the Walnut Hills Area Council,
Nice.
so I'm very connected into the community itself. And then just, the other thing is inviting our neighbors to we have a lot of summer events. We're inviting our neighbors to all of these events this summer, so that they can engage with the house.
Nice.
And the history.
Yes, in House
And
in
the fun.
History. That actually sounds good, House in History.
Okay.
So looking ahead, so what is your vision for the future of the Harriet Beecher Stowe House?
Vision for the future. I think that I would love to continue being an educational resource, continue being a relationship builder, and then just, I'm going to say it again, that place for open dialogue.
Yes.
That place where people can feel free to discuss what's on their mind, and that they feel like, this is a place where they can have those hard conversations about history, about society, about life.
Yeah, and it brings me to a point to where it's almost like you have to build capacity to keep on the generational legacy, right, of Harriet. So that's important, and I think it's essential for even nonprofits when you talk about building capacity, and because nobody really owns a nonprofit, we're just kind of just running it, right? So that building capacity, connecting with the community, I feel like it's just all very important. So we have to continue to do that. So this is our last question.
Okay.
This is coming to a close.
Okay.
So when someone visits the Harriet Beecher Stowe House for the first time, what do you hope they leave thinking or feeling?
What do I hope they leave thinking or feeling? I hope that they leave asking themselves more questions. So how can I seek out truth? How can I use my voice to empower others and to encourage them to do the same? How can I encourage people to tell their stories?
Yeah.
That's what I'd like people to know.
Yeah, that's great. And last thing, we would like for you to make an ask to the community, because as you know, this will be out there, and so make the ask, like, do you need volunteers, or do you need donations, do you need equipment, do you need
all of the above?
All of the above.
But
Okay.
generally speaking, we definitely are in a mode where we're building some more volunteer support. So volunteers are always welcome, and that is something that we can, if you want to be a longer-term volunteer and learn how to be a tour guide, that's one aspect. But we also just need volunteers for individual events, and we have a lot of summer events coming up. So,
Yes.
one-time events, help move tables and chairs and that kind of thing. So volunteer support would be good. And then, make a donation anytime.
Yes,
Or
make
become
a
member.
donation. Keep the legacy and the organization going. Keep it operational and to ensure sustainability. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, no problem. Thank you for coming on, and we're so
was fun.
excited. And yeah, we'll go from there. Thank you all. All right, good.
Bye.
All right, perfect. All right, that was good. That was flawless. I feel like you are interview ready.